Okay, welcome everybody out. And last week we talked about just 6 months to go. Sure whether anybody was on that or not, but that was 6 months to the election selection. What might happen at that time and what we might need to prepare for. So, whether anybody has any more discussion on that matter or not, but
So in a nutshell, what was discussed and what should we be doing to be prepared for the election?
well, basically that regardless of which one of the three choices happens, probably at least half of the country is going to be upset about it, and
For sure.
probably going to be worse than it was last election, in that regard. So it's kind of a deadline, I think, for whatever you think you might need to prepare for. So, we could have no election, which is what's happening in Ukraine. We could have Biden win, we could have Trump win, or we could have nobody win because of a third party candidate. All they got to take is about 8 or 10 electoral votes, and then the other two candidates can't hit 270, and
Yeah, that
then it's a toss up in the House.
and isn't that a frightening thought?
Yeah, and they can pick anybody at that point. But we'd probably have somebody even less supported than 50%, way less supported than 50%, or 49%. So anyway, that's what we were basically discussing last week. So today in market news, the markets were generally up today. Gold was up a couple of bucks at 23.58, and goldbacks were up about $6 compared to last week at this time. So goldbacks are trading at 465. Silver was down a penny at 28.60, and the gold silver ratio is the lowest it's been since we've been doing this. It's at 1 to 83. That means a whole lot. This means that silver's gone up more than gold has here recently. And the long bonds were up today and actually looking pretty good on the chart. Look like they might be breaking out of a parallel. I mean, out of a triangle. So tilting zeros. And wheat was down a couple of pennies to 6.26, but it's still holding above the $6 range. So that's good. DBA, which is the agricultural commodities, was up a few cents at 23.70, and DBC, which is a more broad commodities with lots of energy involved in it, was down a few cents at 23.33. And then the industrial military complex was kind of mixed. XAR was up, GE was up, Boeing was up even, but Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and Raytheon were down. So it's kind of half and half. Natural gas was down to 17.17, but the futures were actually up a little bit at 234, which is 4 cents over the magic cost of production over here at 230. But 3 stocks that I used to play natural gas: Southwestern Chesapeake and Chinnery Energy. They were all up today pretty nicely. So I guess with the price of gas going up, they think these 3 companies will make money. So, yes, oil was down a little bit, even though a statistic came out today that our amount of supply is actually down. Normally, we expect oil to go up, so I guess that means that people think demand's going to fall because of the economy. Bitcoin was down a little bit today at 61,000. Actually took a little foray into bits last week, and I'm underwater a little bit now, but maybe it might be time to do a little dollar cost averaging if you haven't gotten anything in that arena. Today is a meeting of the BRICS Partnership Advisory Group on the New Industrial Digital Revolution. Started today in Moscow. What's going to come out of that, who knows? But if they get serious about a digital currency or a gold or commodity-backed currency, it could rapidly have an effect on our dollar. Kind of like the next item there about about our sunspots and our extreme weather on the sun over the last week. Things can change rapidly, and we can't do anything about it. Just hopefully be prepared for some of it. But I don't know how many of you know about the Carrington event, which I thought was an X flare of about 10, but I started looking at it. It happened in 1859, and of course back then the only thing that happened was compasses at sea failed to work, causing some ships to become lost. Telegraph networks experienced disruption, with some telegraph lines catching fire. Tellingly, people as far south as the Caribbean and Mexico saw auroras. Scientists believe that what happened on that day 164 years ago was an extreme geomagnetic storm. Since then, the 1859 storm has become known as the Carrington event. And, we've just in the last week, we've had several solar flares, and the highest one was a little less than 9, and I thought that was serious. Well, it is the most serious one in my lifetime, I believe. But anyway, less than 9. But the Carrington event was actually estimated to be 45. So wasn't as serious, even though we had GPS failures and minor radio communications problems and satellite communications problems. It didn't seem to be a big deal, but supposedly that one that was almost 9 was just a very glancing blow. It didn't come from the center of the sun. It just came from the edge of the sun. So it was really facing, like 45-degree angle away from Earth instead of a direct 90-degree angle to Earth. So it might have been as bad as the Carrington event if it'd come out of a different sunspot. So anyway, I guess we got lucky at that. But I don't know whether you've heard of HARP, but it's the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, and outside of Fairbanks, Alaska. It's just a big set of antennas, but for some reason they were testing that at the same time this week. Is that coincidence or what? I don't know, but some people are saying that was why we were seeing the auroras as far south as we did, not what the sun was doing. But I don't know whether I believe that or not, but just a strange coincidence, because apparently when HARP fires up, the receiver for all of that energy is in New Zealand.
Wow.
And they reflect it back to Alaska. And kind of strange. It's been around for 40, 50 years, but it's strange that they were doing a test this week with it. So anyway, it supposedly could be used as a weapon. Who knows? But anyway, speaking of war, still got our war on natural gas, got a war on the middle class, a war on cash. So keep spending those bucks. You know, a lot of people think that they're going to outlaw cash after the election. Fed now is now. It's available for everybody, which is basically a digital dollar. War on food in the Netherlands, Germany, France, India, Italy, USA now. We're on gardens in certain places. We're on meat. We now have chipped beef, which is a chip in the ear of a beef cow. That passed Congress where that's a requirement for all breeding livestock beef in this country within the next year. They can tell where every cow is at any time. Isn't that interesting?
Ridiculous.
What's their purpose in that though?
They claim it's to prevent disease, and you know, it seems that they want to vaccinate all the cattle with mRNA vaccine also, but got to know where every one of them's at, I guess. They want to eliminate them because beef's bad for the planet, you know. So, seasonal information. Be a good day to plant trees today. About anything else? Should have all our pruning and things done. Lots of things, not near anything can go in the garden at this point. Potato slips. Tammy, you still got those potato slips growing in your vase?
No, they are actually in the ground. Bill put them in the ground on Saturday.
Should be good then with this rain. Mine just seems to be kind of sitting there. But, okay, and of course, as we know, swarm season is here.
Yeah, those 3 swarms that you helped us with are all doing great.
Great. Been surprised I haven't had any, at least as far as I know. Mine usually aren't as considered as yours were. Mine are usually up 15, 20 foot in a tree.
That's the first one that we had this year. It just went way to the top of the tree. And it's like, yeah, there's no way we're recovering that. And then these ones came out and just went right to the blueberries. It's like, very kind of them.
Yeah, when Liz told me about it, I go, man, this is gonna be a zoo over there. You know, 3 swarms it was, and they were so considerate, you know.
Yeah, and they're sweet. We have very sweet bees.
Yeah, I didn't get a single sting or anything. What's
So
amazing?
an interesting thing I read online today, one headline said that the number of bees in the US is at the highest point that it's been for a long, long time.
Wow.
The bee population. I don't know exactly, you know, how they figured that, but
That's what they're saying.
That's great. I mean, I still lost half of mine over the winter, but
Yeah, we maintained all of our hives through the winters, and that's rare. For years and years, we've lost many hives through the winter, but this year they all survived the winter.
that's great. So, of course, hopefully everybody's got their potassium iodine. And, I'd recommend if you can get them, go ahead and order the seeds that you're going to use next year, so you'll be sure and have them.
It is shocking how expensive seeds are this year.
I know.
Shocking.
I'm trying to get things to where I can harvest my own seeds and only grow things that I can save seeds from. But some of the things that we like to have, like beets and carrots, are kind of hard to to save the seeds from, and that they're it's a biennial process, you know, so you gotta
Mm-hmm.
be able to keep the root alive through the winter, and then the next spring they put up seed stalks. So
Yeah.
anyway, they're working on that. So now's the time we talk about any progress that anybody would like to tell us about that they've made. So I guess we got some sweet potatoes in for one thing.
Yay! Yep, we replaced the plants that froze, right? We planted the garden and they froze that night. So we've replaced all of those. I freeze dried some feta cheese that Liz had given me, and I sent her home with a bag. So Liz, let me know when you try that and what you think about it.
Yeah, we may savor that in the bag for a long time.
I don't know, you might want to try it and go, this is terrible. That's the trick, right? I've never done feta. And so it's like, okay, well, I'll try it. Right. And I did. I freeze dried all of it that she had given me. But I thought I'll at least share a bag back so you guys can see what that's like. It's super delicate. It's super crushable, right? When it freeze dry, it just turns to powder. You look at it, it turns to powder.
Wow.
So
Is it real salty?
no, surprisingly, it is not really salty.
Huh.
So it had good flavor. Obviously I tried it when it was just done. But I think like sprinkled on a salad or even on top of a pasta or something like that, I would never try and rehydrate it. I think it would just turn to mush because of the way that it came out of the freeze dryer. But there are definitely chunks about the size maybe of your fingernail, chunks that size. But even the powder, I feel like I would just dump it in something. I would dump it in the sauce and use it up. So it's still a usable product for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Lyle, how about you? Anything noteworthy?
Well, my sweet potatoes I put in the bucket are finally sprouted. I've got some slips coming up off the old sweet potatoes, and I'd say in a week they'll be ready to plant in the garden.
Good, you got
So.
plenty of time.
Yeah, my raspberries are coming up real good. And I started a bunch of carrots and some tomatoes in a small tray, and they seem to be sprouting really well too.
I mean, I don't feel too bad because I was listening to Deep South Homestead, and these people are in Mississippi, and they're still harvesting their slips and putting out slips, you know, down there, and they've already harvested their Irish potatoes. So
Wow.
yeah, so I thought, gee, it's too late down there, but apparently not. So if they're not too late, we're doing fine.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, I wanted to ask Winston if you knew we have a rosemary bush, which is pretty hardy. Can you take cuttings off of that, and will they root in water?
Yes, I've successfully pretty easily gotten them to root before. One thing I found about rooting things, it's best if you suspend it in the water instead of just letting it, you know, sit on the bottom of the glass or whatever.
Okay.
Something about that positioning that just you know, the roots just seem to come out by gravity, so to speak.
Winston, when you did your rosemary, was it a woody stem or was it fresh growth?
Yeah, it's a wooden stem, and I'm going to interrupt. For me, Tammy, I've got a rosemary, but it's kind of a branch that it got broken off, but it's a kind of a fairly big one, so I don't know if it's going to root. I'm thinking you probably need a smaller piece of it, right?
Well, just go up the stem and take off some, you know, some last year's growth maybe. It's not the woody, you know, just like you would do the potato slips, so to speak.
Okay.
Probably work better because that big old stem, they're pretty much the same thing as doing the blueberries. You know, you want this year's growth, but that's kind of started to harden off a little bit, you know, but
Okay.
not too old, not too young for that. So anyway, I didn't get much chance to get out and do my forage walk today, so I'm going to show the pictures that I showed last week. Y'all, not sure. I don't think y'all were here. So anyway, this one is an elf's ear growing on the root of a stump that I cut down. It's kind of unusual. Usually they grow on a branch that has fallen off, but which is like this one. This is a more typical example of one. But this is a common mushroom. There'll probably be a lot of these come out after this rain. This one is growing
Oh,
up.
these are edible?
Yes. And they're kind of gelatinous like a elf's ear.
Okay.
Oh, that sounds not yummy.
But like if you slice that up and you know, it's kind of like hard jello basically, but slice that up
Okay.
and put it in a stew or a sweet and sour soup, you know, that like the mushroom they put in very similar to the mushroom they put in the Chinese sweet and sour soup, or put it in scrambled eggs. That's what I used to do. Could eat eggs, but very nutritious, probably medicinal mushroom. Pretty easy to identify. And here's something else that's kind of all over the place. It's a little mature. I'm not sure if this is field cress or land cress, but it doesn't matter for eating purposes. Pretty common plant around here.
So what parts of that do you eat?
Uh, everything above ground. It's probably
Okay.
it's a little past its prime, but you know, all these little leaves and the blossoms, you know, just like when kale or broccoli, you know, turns to flower up there, you know, you can eat all that stuff except the seeds. In the early spring, all you'll have is this part down here, you know, close to the ground, but it's bolted and you see it all over the roadways now. Lemon. And a couple weeks ago, I showed a jewel weed here, and it was pretty small and people weren't able to identify it. But another way to identify jewel weed, I took this photo about midnight last night, as I go by this patch 4 times a day. And if you look here, see these white shiny spots? That's the jewels, but that's dew. It just for some reason it just beads up big droplets of dew on it. It's real strange in that regard.
Interesting.
Something to do with the electrostatic properties of its leaves. But that's you know, early in the morning or in this case, late at night. It already started. It gotten cool enough for the dew to fall, and it just really amazing how it looks then. Of course, that's an antidote for poison ivy, so something you should locate and know where it is all the time. This is growing down near my creek. Of course, this was the sweet potato. This was one potato, and I got it was a large potato. I had 3 potatoes in the pot, but just lifted the whole potato up, and I had 33 slips off of this one potato, and I need 36.
Wow.
I need 36 slips to plant my bed. So almost got it with that one potato.
So the slips that come off of those, do you think they are, or they'll grow as big and as healthy as the ones before? Like if you kept doing it, would it be the same kind of a crop you get off of it? As far as their size and the amount that comes off, or I'm just curious, I didn't,
You
I
mean
don't know why not, but
you mean year after year, or?
yeah, year after year.
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
Okay.
I've been growing these for I don't know, maybe 6 or 8 years, and saving my seed and using them over and over. Last
Right.
last year I got a poor crop, but I think that was because of the drought, and I didn't water them.
Mm-hmm.
But that big potato is showing you it's actually year before last potato.
Wow.
They keep real well
Mm-hmm.
Where do you store yours, Winston?
in the crawl space.
Oh, uh-huh.
That's moist enough for them.
Yeah, yeah. They don't need real moist, but or real cool.
I guess you don't really need them moist until you want to start growing the slips, right?
Right,
And a little more moisture will spur them on.
right. So anyway, so anything else? Anybody want to talk about in the gardening arena, or if not, do you know what the rogue food movement is?
Maybe not by that name.
A rogue is somebody or something that is off on its own, not in according to the rules.
Yeah.
Or maybe even avoiding the rules. But anyway, got a little video here of Dr. Berg interviewing Joel Salatin, and Joel will explain all about this, and then we'll discuss the reasonings that you might want to know about the rogue food movement. For some reason, I'm not seeing it. Are y'all seeing the YouTube screen, or?
No, I still see your document. There you go.
This is not a test. The United States has been subjected to a nuclear attacks. San Diego, Chicago, Houston, Phoenix, New York City, Philadelphia, and Seattle.
My cousin, he's the animal prepper. A vegetarian option. It doesn't taste very good. But other than that, it's food, and there's actually a lot of food. They put in some crackers, like 2 cookies. There's like.
Okay, we'll kill that one. I don't know what's causing that. Anyway, here we go.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Eric, and thank you for having me on. It's a real pleasure and an honor to be with you. When you walk into a Walmart or a supermarket, it's easy to assume that, well, good grief, the cornucopia is here. I can have anything I want. And the fact is that all the food in a supermarket is carefully sanctioned, if you will, or licensed by a labyrinth of government regulations, not just food regulations, but zoning regulations and all sorts of things that make it very difficult for especially small farmers to come in. I remember one time I had a bunch of vice presidents from, I think it was Sam's Club, either Sam's Club or Costco. The nine vice presidents were on a kind of a nature tour around the East Coast. They'd come from Arkansas, where their headquarters is, and we were one of their stops. They were going to spend the day out on the Chesapeake Bay and things, and I gave them a farm tour. We're having lunch in the sales building there, and they asked me, well, they were totally impressed. They got it. They got ecological farming. They got earthworms. I mean, it all resonated. Animal welfare, those sorts of things. And they asked me, well, how do we get your stuff into a Costco or a Walmart or whatever? And I said, well, the first thing you have to do is allow a truck smaller than a tractor trailer to back up to your loading dock. Dr. Eric, end of discussion. That was it.
Wow.
That they could not even go anywhere. So that's not government regulations. That's just the system. The system is it is conceived and continues to evolve to protect the powerful interests that are there. And I'm not going to suggest it's a conspiracy. I'm not even sure that a lot of these people know the impact of their policies, like not letting a one-ton truck back up to the dock. I mean, I could tell by these folks' expression, the thought never occurred to them. Oh, well, a small farmer would have trouble coming in a tractor trailer. I don't think it ever crossed their mind. It's a different world. And so I don't like to use the word conspiracy or evil intent. I think a lot of this stuff just happens because people aren't thinking about it, and it just is what it is. But the fact is that there are many things. If you start thinking about, wonder what it'd be like to have a truly artisanal craft cheese, for example, made by a local farmer with unpasteurized milk. What would it be like to have a homemade pepperoni, bologna, charcuterie made by an artisanal pork producer that the pigs ran outside, ate grass and acorns, and this person made these real specialty, Polish sausage and things.
Mm-hmm.
But that none of that exists. In fact, in Virginia right now, there is not. If as a small farmer, if I want to make and sell a hot dog, I mean a good hot dog, not scrapings off the floor somewhere, but a good all meat hot dog with no fillers, no junk in it, just beef and pork, and that's it.
Yeah.
There is not a place in Virginia that can make a legal hot dog that I can sell.
Unbelievable. Incredible.
So in order for me to sell a hot dog, I have to ship boneless product up to Pennsylvania and pay a large facility there to make our hot dogs and then ship them back to ourselves.
Wow. Wow.
And then of course that makes the price of the food a little bit higher. So then you get accused of being, you're a food elitist. Look at your prices. Well,
yeah.
When I have to
Yeah, I just, I want to support a local farmer, a small farmer that's doing it right, because that's the type of food I want to eat. But it's becoming very difficult to get that food. And I can see why, all the regulations and the support for the bigger industry. So it's making it harder and harder. One of the things that you're doing is you're having a conference with a bunch of farmers that are very creative, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that solution?
Yeah, so the Rogue Food Conference was started about 4 years ago, And John Moody and I kind of started it. I'd been wanting to do this for years, but I needed a manager sidekick. I'm a visionary. Okay. I'm a dreamer. I'm out here in la la land. And I need a stage manager, I can conceive the theme and the story, but I'm not the guy to actually run the stage. And so John Moody came along. He said, yeah, I'll do that. And so we launched the first one in the spring of 2020, literally 1 week before the lockdown started. And the theme is circumvention, not compliance. What happens, Dr. Eric, is that when regulations become so onerous that they prohibit competition coming to the table, to the marketplace table, there comes a time when it's actually more efficient to figure out a circumventive way, an end run, than it is to try to run up through the middle with and agree to comply with everything. And so we started looking around the country, say, where are the people that have figured out how to do this, how to make an end run? And lo and behold, there are a bunch of them. I mean,
Wow.
Not myriads by any means, but there's enough to actually create a nascent movement. So this will be our 7th or 8th Rogue Food Conference. It's going to be here in Virginia. We're going to be hosting it at our farm, and we'll be showcasing people. And what we've been doing is showcasing ideas and people. So let me give you a couple of examples. One is a lady in North Carolina that has started a 501c3 food church. You join her church, you get the food, and her her protection is freedom of religion.
Wow.
It's my religion that I'm to take care of my body. It actually doesn't belong to me. It belongs to God. And it's not supposed to have junk. And so in order for it to not get junk, in other words, it's part of the whole, the whole religious experience. Okay. So that's one example. And the state, North Carolina, has tried to shut her down. She's had as many as six food police cars. I call them food police. Parked outside her warehouse there, and they can't touch her. She said, you have no jurisdiction here. This is, freedom of religion. And,
Wow.
and so far she's winning that argument. There's a guy in Florida who has gone under the pet food regulation. So about 8-9 years ago, he was raided for selling unlicensed dairy products. So he was milking cows and selling ice cream and kefir and yogurt and milk and butter, completely unlicensed. But his customers were thrilled. The stuff was unbelievably good, and they felt better, and people wanted it, and so he was selling it. Well, he got busted, as they say. He got busted, and so as a result, working with the Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund, which is a group of attorneys that kind of like the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, they got the Florida bureaucracy to craft pet food licenses that you could license any food for $25 and register it as a pet food.
I love it.
And so he licenses milk and kefir and yogurt, $25 a piece as a pet food, and now sells food not for human consumption. Eric, within 1 year of that new policy going into effect, 12 full-time raw milk dairies sprang up in Florida. And I was down there about 2 years later doing some kind of local foodie talks in Gainesville, Tallahassee, Orlando, some of the big cities. And it was interesting. These young, Generation Z, 30-year-old, urban foodies said, hey, we know where the good stuff is. The good stuff is the pet food. And that had completely permeated the local food movement. So, that's another one.
That's great.
The lady in Minnesota that went under the fish bait code. So she was taking cheese. She was taking cheese in, actually, she was in Wisconsin, taking cheese in the Minneapolis farmers market, and she got busted for, unlicensed cheese. And so she called the state and said, is there a law? Is there some rule about fish bait? There are a lot of fishing up in Wisconsin, Minnesota, all the Great Lakes. What regulations do they have? Well, not really any, just as long as it's edible. And so now she sells fish bait Colby, fish bait cheddar, fish bait Swiss, and nobody touches her.
Oh my gosh.
There's the private membership association. That's a real hot item. And at this conference, we're actually going to have a public debate. There are defenders and detractors of the private membership association, which is essentially I join a private member. It was developed in the 1960s in the Deep South by country clubs to not comply with the Civil Rights Act. This is not public, and so this is a private club, and we can do whatever we want. And of course, these were powerful interests, definitely prejudiced, but they created a precedent of a legal entity that is not a public thing. It's, in other words, one of the phrases that we hear is, well, we got to protect the public interest. Food safety, it's a public interest. But what about the private interest? What
Right.
about the interest of the private?
Right.
And what if I don't want the public to agree that what if I don't want public food or food that passes public muster?
Right.
And I want private food. So that's a big one. Here's another one. This is one that's just come out through our movement. And I don't know that anybody's really doing this, but I think it's got some legs for somebody that's creative. So with the internet now, you can take all sorts of courses. You can learn how to sew and cook and fly an airplane and, whatever, make all sorts of things. So there are all these courses. Well, there are people now where you can take, for example, a butchery course, and you pay $200 or $300, and part of the textbook, the tools of the course is you get 100 pounds of meat or 50 pounds of meat. And so my customers just sign up, they pay for a course, and part of the course materials are free meat.
That is so creative.
Yeah. So the whole principle here, just to cut to the chase, where the government gets involved is in commerce. That phrase, in commerce. Well, the courts have determined specific things of what does it mean when there's a sale? What does in commerce mean? And so a lot of this, creativity is surrounding a legal way to transact a trade that does not come under the purview of commerce. Because you can give away all the stuff I've described. You can give it away.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't sell it. In fact, you can even buy it. It's not illegal to buy it. It's only illegal to sell it.
Fascinating.
Okay?
Fascinating.
So that's what we're doing, and it's gaining legs. There are people now that are hybridizing, and I'll take a piece of this and a piece of that, and putting their own creativity. And so every we're doing 2 of these a year. The next one's here. The one in the fall is going to be in Dallas, Texas. I think the next one's going to be in Florida. We just did one in the Pacific Northwest up in Battleground, Washington, and so we're moving it around the country, and every time we have more and more people that are being successful at thwarting the bureaucracy that keeps, small producers from being able to access the market.
So if you wanted to, let's say, for example, sell pot pies from your farm, would you run into a couple barriers?
Oh man, we tried this actually about 4 years ago. We had a summer chef who so in the summer when we have our stewards, we have a summer chef who cooks for us. So our whole farm crew, there's about 25 to 27 of us, can all eat, as a family together, communally, and it's a wonderful way to end the day. And so she wanted to stay. The problem is it's only 5 months. It's May 1 to September 30. And well, what am I going to do the rest of the 7 months? So she said, I know what we'll do. Let's make pot pies. And this this young lady was a graduate of the Culinary Institute of America at Hyde Park, New York. She actually had a credential. She was a diploma. And so I have always wanted to make pot pies, chicken pot pie, beef pot pie. I love pot pie, and all the permutations, shepherd's pie, all those kinds of things, pot pie. And our customers are always asking for that. We'd love to get pot pie. So let's make some. So she started down this pathway, and of course, the first thing they told her she needed was a commercial kitchen. Well, we have a pretty nice commercial kitchen here at the farm. It's not licensed. The problem was it has to have a licensed bathroom. Now, this thing is only 100 yards from our house. If she wants to go to the bathroom, she can run to our house and use the bathroom. But no, a commercial kitchen has to have an attached bathroom. I said, well, can it be a composting toilet? No, it has to be water-based, porcelain, the whole 9 yards. Well, what if I'm happy with it? No. It doesn't matter. And so suddenly a little trial balloon suddenly costs $40,000 of licensed lagoons and, bathroom facilities just to try a pot pie. So I got to asking them, I said, now, wait a minute. Food trucks, I could go to Charlottesville and there's a couple of food trucks over there at the UVA campus selling meat pies. They sell them all the time in Australia out of food trucks. Food truck is making meat pies. They don't have a bathroom. The inspector said, no, and that's a loophole we'd like to close, and we're trying to figure out how to do it. I said, wait a minute. Are you telling me that if I put this kitchen we have right here, if I put it on a chassis with wheels, then I wouldn't need a bathroom? He said, absolutely, that's exactly correct. But then the problem is you can't sell them off site. So if it's a food truck, you can't make food in there and sell it on off site. You can only sell it from the food truck. So we went around and around. I could go into more detail, but you get the picture here. This is all just to sell a meat pie.
I think what's happening is the vilification of the foods that have the lowest margins, like meat products and things like that, especially. I mean, I looked up how much it costs to buy some corn, the dent corn. It's $298 per metric ton. You can actually create over 6,000 boxes of cornflakes from that, which comes out to roughly about a 7,000% margin on corn. But for these other products that you have to grow, oh my gosh, it's like incredibly hard. So the barriers to entry. So I am all about supporting the person who's doing it right, small farmers. What about, is there somewhere a person can go to maybe find a network or a kind of a place where they could find a place to get food locally? Is there already like maybe a database or something you have on your site, or somewhere that someone could find, that we take everyone and consolidate them into one place so we could find out where we could support these small farmers?
Yeah, well, I mean, there are shopping sites. I mean, I don't know if I have one right here. I can't put my hands on it, but anyway, Weston A. Price Foundation. Weston A. Price Foundation has the Smart Shopper's Guide.
Oh,
That's a
good.
wonderful one. They call it the shop heard round the world, instead of the shop heard round the world. They have that, and there are some others, but the main thing is you just start sleuthing. I mean, this is the local food scene is a kind of a subculture.
Yeah.
It's a subculture, kind of a tribal subculture, just like any other tribal subculture. And you're not going to find it if you're just perched on your couch watching Netflix and the NFL football game with a Pabst Blue Ribbon beer in your hand. Ain't going to happen. Okay. The most frustrating thing in the whole, authentic integrity food movement, as you know, it's really hard to get people to change their routine. Diet is one of the most fundamental routines we have. I like this kind of food. I like this kind of food. And so if you're going to change, it's gonna take a real act of the will, an act of conviction, to make a change. And so you have to decide, I'm going to participate. I'm going to make a change. And so that doesn't happen. Fairies don't drop all that into your lap. So you have to sleuth it out. And every area has its good farmers. I mean, farmers markets are a good place to start. Talk to friends. Go see if there's some like a boutique market in your area selling local stuff. Go in and buy from them, see who's doing it, and then look them up, see where they are, see how far they are, and you can start patronizing them. It's really quite a close fraternity. I mean, if somebody asks me, like we don't grow all of our own food. We get our apples. We get about 10 bushels of apples a year from an organic orchard up about an hour and a half away from us in Front Royal, and we get those apples in and spend a couple days, making applesauce. Teresa cans, I don't know what, 80, 90 quarts, and that's our year supply of applesauce. If somebody asks me, where do I get apples? I'll tell them, go there and get them. And so there's an entire network, under the radar. It's not at Walmart. It's not at Costco. It's not at, Buy Lowe's, Piggly Wiggly, or any of the regular outfits. You're going to have to go, under the orthodox.
Okay. I think that's probably enough to get everybody the gist of it. And I would just like to say my thoughts on this. The reason I thought I should bring it up was, this is not something that if the supply chain was to go south on us like it did, a couple of years ago, that you can just pick up and say, okay, I'm going to get all my food here now. It has to be set up ahead of time. So that was the basic idea of it. So any comment on that, Tammy?
Do you know what? For me, my thought was, just like you said, it can't be instantly done. And I also think that there has to be a relationship between the grower or whatever you're looking for and yourself. Because if he's got 1,000 people coming looking for his pigs, you're probably out of luck, right? There's got to be a previous relationship there when it gets bad,
Right.
that you're higher up on the list than the guy that's got $1,000 to do it.
Yeah, and even if the other thing I thought of, if let's say you're buying a quarter of a beef every year from him, okay, and all of a sudden, and the rest of your meat you're buying out of the grocery store, but all of a sudden you can't get the grocery store meat, so okay, I want a whole beef now. Well, let's say he's got 100 customers or whatever that buy a quarter of a beef. Well, if that 100 customers wants a whole beef, well, guess what?
Yeah, you're out of luck.
It's not there, you know.
Hmm.
You know, takes about 2 years to grow another beef, you know. So, but
Yeah.
that's the kind of things that I was thinking of, and I mean, somebody like me who's like ultra small, you know, I mean, you know, I could take on, you know, one or two more customers, but you know, I'm my customer and my product is pretty pretty tight right now, you know.
Yeah, pretty exclusive,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I mean, I do have a couple of pigs out there right now, but that's just worked out that way. But anyway, but, it's interesting concept, and I think more and more people are tending to go this route, you know, just because of the you know, you know what you're getting that way, and I feel like you never know what you're going to get in the stores, and with this chipping the beef and everything, it seems like they're intent on either driving the producers out, or changing the way the meat is, or making us eat the bugs.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the story. Gonna be interesting how our food system, what it turns into in the next couple of years, the way things are going.
Yeah, it is frightening.
I feel, I just feel totally different eating something that I get out of the garden versus something I get out of a bag at the store, that I always have a wonder, you know, how it was handled and how it was grown and what was sprayed on
Or
it.
what was sprayed on it. That's exactly true. What was sprayed on it? So it was bagged in like February and I'm just eating it now. Right? There's something wrong with that.
Yeah. Well, it's like, you know, they say that you know, people have set on the shelf in a bag, you know, a McDonald's hamburger, you know, from 5 years ago, and
Hmm.
it hasn't
And it's still
changed.
sitting there. I've heard those rumors, but I've never tried that experiment myself.
Yeah, me either. But how does that happen?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, if nobody has anything else, we'll shut it down for the night, and thank everybody for coming out.
Thank you for your time, Winston.
Quite welcome. Good night, Steve.
Good night.